Know your Lord. We learn about his names and his attributes. Know your Lord. What he approves and disapproves. Know your Lord. Believe in all things that he has brought forth. Know his oneness, Lord.
Know Your Lord, part of the Right Belief series by Sheikh Karim AbuZaid, right here on Sunnahfollowers. Being taught by Ustada Layla Nashiba as she lays down the foundations to get you together. Learn about your Lord. Know your Lord. Streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnahfollowers. Assalamu alaikum. Get to know your Lord. First part of the Right Belief series by Sheikh Karim AbuZaid. This dynamic literary work of art's main goal is to revive an understanding the names and attributes of Allah. And understanding the name and attributes of Allah will elevate our faith, strengthen us, and keep us steadfast. This wonderful book is now available in an audiobook format and can be found free of charge on YouTube, channel Karim AbuZaid. Get to know your Lord. You have nothing to lose.
Point up on the screen. And like I said, all these things I'm getting ready to go with you today, I want y'all to keep in mind. As Ibn Taymiyyah was teaching this and his student Ibn Qayyim, the Muslims were fighting against the Mongols. These were war times. These were not times of peace. But you see them doing what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to do at wartime. Call the people back. Call the people back. And the Shiites were all involved here too, guys. They were sick. Sick then just like they are today. People don't change. History just repeats itself. But for those of us who do obey Allah and obey his prophet by falling back on Tawheed, it brings about some great effects for us, some great benefits for us. This is how we overcome the hardships. Because remember, Allah is not going to place a burden on any of us that's too great for us to bear. And this is another thing that the Muslims forget. The people in the East, who are at war now, they can handle it. The people in Lebanon, this ain't the first war they saw. This is what, the 50,000 war that they witnessed? They can handle it. They dealing with it like they always do. Okay? Just like the Ghazians, they're dealing with it like they always do. This is where they are in their iman. Now, how it's going to impact you here in America when it gets here, that's different because you people weak. Those of us who were a part of Vietnam, those of us who do remember that stuff, we might deal better with it than you. Okay? But Allah doesn't put a burden on anyone that they can't handle. He's going to test us all according to our strength. So y'all take those tears and that sympathy, and I'm talking sympathy where you feeling sorry for people. Don't nobody need your sympathy. All the believers need is your empathy. Islam teaches us to empathize for people, not sympathize. Because when you sympathize for people, it causes you to transgress Allah's limits. And you end up straddling the fence with enemies, like many of you are doing now. Okay? So let's talk about the effects of Tawheed. You know, when the calamities hit us, and if you maintain your belief in Allah and your practice, it brings about good effects. Let's look at them. Number one, this is what Ibn Taymiyyah said. And again, he made these statements while they were in battle. He said the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would actualize Tawheed and teach it to his nation, such that a man once came to him and said to the prophet, as Allah wills and you. And the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at this man. He said, what do you mean that it's as Allah has willed and me? Remember, guys, everything that happens in this world, good and bad, happens because Allah willed it. And this was the war. Remember, the prophet was fighting against the Quraysh, just like Ibn Taymiyyah and them were fighting the Mongols. So as Ibn Taymiyyah made this statement, he was telling them, and by the way, my teacher, who's a scholar, the ulama, AbuZaid, he's written a book. How do I know about Ibn Taymiyyah? My teacher wrote a book about his life story. It's in Arabic. But my teacher, AbuZaid, told me what I need to know about him when he started teaching me 25, 30 years ago. Okay? So Ibn Taymiyyah was talking about how one of the companions made the statement to the prophet, okay, it's as Allah wills and as you will. And the prophet said, what do you mean? Are you making me an associate with Allah? He said, it's as Allah wills. Allah is the one. He's the one that decrees everything, not me. He said, don't put me on a level equal to Allah. That's what the Christians did, he told this companion. They put Jesus on a level equal to Allah. And that's what the Jews did. They put Ezra on a level equal to Allah. Allah is the one who wills, not man. Okay? Nothing happens, good or evil, unless Allah wills it. Not even a leaf falls from the tree unless Allah wills it. And we Muslims have to understand that. If we understood that this war is happening because Allah willed it, not because America has power, not because the Zionists have power. Like Allah says in the Quran, if they wanted to harm you, they wouldn't be able to lift a finger unless Allah willed it. If we Muslims would remember that everything that's happening is because Allah willed it, then we wouldn't succumb to sympathy and transgress Allah's limits. And the prophet let those companions know this war, our wars, this is all because Allah willed it. And he ain't putting no burden on us that we can't bear. And listen to what Ibn Karim, who was the student, the best student of Ibn Taymiyyah, said. He said, indeed, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam guarded Tawheed. He protected it. For example, he forbade the Muslims from the observance of the voluntary prayer for Allah at the rising of the sun and at its setting, so that again, it wouldn't resemble the people who worship the sun, the people who worship the moon and stuff. Okay? The Prophet protected this religion. He protected the oneness of Allah. He didn't want anyone to try to make the mistake of equating him with Allah like the Christians and Jews did. So now, what would the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say if he were living today and he heard you Muslims around the world talking about a maulid? What would he say if he were living today and saw that you guys were celebrating his birthday when you don't even know when his birthday was? The day that y'all chose was the day he died. What would the prophet say to you people? And now you got the nerve to ask why Allah sent the war. Okay? So, one of the virtues of truly believing in Allah is that it'll expand your heart. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. Whoever Allah wills to guide, Allah expands his chest to Islam. And whomever Allah wills to send astray, he makes his heart tight and constricted. We have to understand you can't even make a person convert to Islam. We got Muslim brothers today who waste a lot of time on the internet and in the streets giving what they call street dawah. And what are they doing? They're wasting a lot of time arguing and debating with non-Muslims, thinking that they can change their way of thinking about Jesus or change their way of living. Allah, just like he's the one that made this war happen, he's the one that guides to Islam too. He makes Muslims, not you, not me. This is the type of stuff that Ibn Taymiyyah taught. This is why I focus on this type of teaching. We're in times of hardship. We have to get back to the basics. We have to understand that Allah is in control, not man. We have to put the power where it rightly deserves and put the fear on Allah and not on man. As Ibn Qayyim said, nothing expands the heart more than belief in Allah. And this expansion varies according to the completeness of your belief in him. The closer you are to Allah in your belief, then the more expanded your heart becomes. As Ibn Qayyim said, Tawheed and guidance are the greatest causes of an expanded chest, whereas associating partners with Allah and deviance and misguidance are what causes your heart to constrict. So why are we Muslims weak today? Why are we so weak and emotional that we'll even say we can sit down with the Shiites and be friends with these filthy people, okay, who have betrayed this nation over and over and over again from the time of the companions till today? You're too weak. You got to work on your Tawheed, on your belief in Allah. You have to fall back and remember that he's in charge, not Zionists. I'm sick of hearing this. The Zionists, the Zionists, the Zionists. They're doing what Allah willed for them to do. Let's hear about Allah. Let's talk about Allah, guys, like Ibn Taymiyyah did. Okay? Wait a minute. What is this? Hold on for a second. This thing popped up on my screen. Okay. Also, another effect of having true belief in Allah is it helps to repel the hardships of the world. Okay? Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, and mention the man of the fish when he went off in anger and thought that we would not decree anything to happen to him. And he called out in the darkness and that there is no deity except you, Allah. Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers. This is the story of, I don't know what this stuff is. It popped up on my screen. This is the story of Jonah, alayhi salam. You guys can still hear, right? I don't know what's going on there on, is my sound still on? Is there anybody in Zoom? Am I still speaking on YouTube?
I can hear you, Miss Zoom.
What is this stuff that's saying voice is too quiet? I don't know what that is that's going on. Okay, but anyway, help some moderators are in there in case it's somebody messing up our screen. Okay, so here Allah is speaking about Jonah, alayhi salam. Jonah made a mistake. What was the mistake that Jonah made? Jonah didn't speak out against the evil that happened on a ship. Because he chose to not speak out, Allah had to teach him a lesson. So Allah caused him to fall off the ship and a whale to swallow him. Okay? And because of that, you know, Jonah recognized the wrong he did. And he called out to Allah, asking for Allah's forgiveness. And he said, oh Allah, there is no deity but you. Because what happened? On that ship, the owner of the ship wanted to draw lots to see who would get something. This is something that we don't do. We don't draw lots. We don't believe in luck. We believe in the qadr of Allah. But because Jonah didn't speak out against the people being pessimistic by drawing lots, Allah had to teach him this lesson. Okay? So, as we can see, as Jonah learned his lesson in that well and sought forgiveness, we all know the story. Allah ended up forgiving him because Allah forgives all sins, no matter how big, no matter how small, as long as we call upon him out of sincerity. So listen to what Ibn Qayyim said. He said, nothing prevents the misfortunes of the world like true belief in Allah. That is why the supplication of a person who's going through a hardship is supposed, and if it's done with true belief in Allah, then Allah will come to your aid like he did Jonah. And that's the problem today, guys. Muslims today, we're not making dua. We're not calling upon Allah. We're not asking Allah, you know, to forgive us for what we've done to bring about his anger. Allah brings war out of his anger, okay? Instead of us asking, what have we done to cause Allah to be so angry with this nation that he's bringing this war on? Instead, we're becoming like the kafir. We're protesting against him, boycotting against him, and now we talk about siding with the evil Shiites who've played a filthy role in our history since the time of those companions. If we would fall back on Tawheed, like the Prophet said, fall back on La ilaha illallah and make dua, then Allah would answer us. And he would bring about relief and change, like he did for Jonah, alayhi salam, and Jonah's people. But we're not doing that. And that's why nothing's going to change. Okay? Nothing saves a person from the trials of life like belief in Allah does. True belief in him. Because if you truly believe in him, you'd submit. You'd submit to his commands. You women would be dressing the way Allah commanded. Allah commanded us women to dress a certain way. You sisters who are doing all this protesting, you sisters who's doing all this Save Gaza stuff, look at the majority of you. You look ridiculous. You don't look like the women of Gaza. Those believing women of Gaza look like me. They're dressed like me. They ain't being dragged out the houses without a hijab on. Have you seen any of them without a hijab on? They keep their hijab on 24/7 because they know that death can come at any moment. And they got a bias on. You women ain't even dressed properly with your fake eyelashes going to the moon. You got the curse of Allah on you with those fake eyelashes. When you know the Prophet said anyone that lengthens their hair artificially has the curse of Allah. Do you think Allah is listening to your supplications? You're not even living your life in submittance to him. And you brothers, the women are just a reflection of you. You're shaving your beards. You instead of praying at the mosque, you're praying in the streets. You're at Ramadan, during the most sacred month of the year, when you brothers get more rewards than ever being at the mosque during the Tawheed. You rather pray the Tawheed out in Times Square with prostitutes and drugs and all of that because you want to be seen on TV and you want to make the Guinness Book of Records. Filthy people, that's what you are. And you want to know why Allah has sent this war. You want to know why Allah ain't listening to your supplications? Supplicate on until you fall back on La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. You got nothing coming. Nothing coming but a bomb. Nothing coming but Allah's punishment. Okay? Tawheed. If we truly believe in the oneness of Allah, and if we truly submitted to Him, it would bring about security and safety for us. As Ibn Qayyim said, Tawheed is the greatest bastion of Allah, which whoever enters it, then he is from those that are secure. On the other hand, fear, and that's what you Muslims are suffering with today. The majority of the Muslims today are fearful. That's why y'all so fearful that you're talking about siding with the Shiite. Okay, trusting them. Because they doing something only to try to think that they waking up a Mahdi. Okay? As Ibn Qayyim said, fear is always alongside shirk, whereas safety is always alongside belief in Allah. You're too fearful. You're too sympathetic. You're too fearful. Your belief in Allah is wanting. You fear the kafir. You fear man instead of fearing Allah. You so afraid of what the kafir is doing when you should fear that Allah's punishment, because the kafir are only doing what Allah willed them to do. It all goes back to that willing, the qadr of Allah. Also, as Ibn Qayyim said, Tawheed is from the most potent of factors for protection from fears, whereas associating partners with Allah is from the most potent of factors for the occurrence of fear. Why is this war here? Because we fear man more than we do Allah. You ain't praying. You ain't wearing hijab. You shaving your beard. You praying in the street. You on social media cursing each other, arguing with each other, kafir bashing each other. You fear man more than Allah. So that's why Allah has brought to you and me what we fear the most, which is death. What is it that man fears the most? As the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the one thing that man fears the most is death. So because we fear man more than Allah, Allah has brought what we fear the most, death in the form of war. Okay? Again, whatever good befalls us comes from Allah. And whatever bad befalls us comes from ourselves. From our own, comes from Allah as a result of what we brought on our own self. The bad comes from Allah and the good. Okay? Also, again, true belief in Allah, it serves as the protection for us. The protection from stress, from worry, from anxiety. Subhanallah, I've been feeling so melancholy. So melancholy. I've been making lots of supplication, lots of dua to Allah because I am so melancholy. My life has been just sad. I'm being tested with this website and how to keep it on the net because we don't have enough donations. I'm being tested in my personal life with family, being tested in my personal life, even with myself and my own feelings and my own insecurities. But one thing I do is I'm always calling upon Allah to keep me balanced, to keep me in my right form. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. And when they board a ship, they call upon Allah sincerely But when he delivers them back to the land, then they began to associate partners with him. That's how we are. The only time that man calls upon Allah is when something bad happens. When something bad happens. I bet you if they were to drop a bomb here in America, the you brothers would get off of Times Square and run to the mosque to pray. Oh yeah, the mosques would be full then. I bet you if they dropped a bomb on your house, you sisters would run and get them hijabs. You know, we turn to Allah and call upon him when times are bad. And then when Allah takes away the fear or that which fears you, then we go back to our own ways. That's how the unbelievers do. And sadly, guys, that's how we Muslims do too. And again, these are the words that Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim said to their people in their era. And they were at war. They were fighting the Mongols. Okay. And finally, I want y'all to ponder this. Allah says in the interpretation of meaning, and when they board a ship, they call upon Allah sincerely. But when he delivers them to land, they begin to associate partners with him. The true believers, we call upon Allah in good times and in bad, just like Jonah did. Prophet Jonah alayhi salam, he knew that he made a mistake by not speaking out against the lot drawing. So when Allah punished him, he knew it was a punishment. So all he did was lay in that stomach of the whale, begging Allah, pleading with Allah to forgive him over and over. And he was so sincere that even the fish in the sea made dua too, saying, "Oh Allah, forgive Jonah." And Allah knew that Jonah was sincere, and so Allah expelled him out of that whale. Remember, guys, true belief in Allah brings ease as a matter of perspective and a matter of reality. True belief in Allah will cause us to look at the reality of life, to look at the reality of ourselves. True belief in Allah will cause you to humble yourself, break down, and call upon your Lord and say, "Allah, I messed up. Forgive me." How many Muslims are doing this today?